We do everything there is to reduce our carbon output every year. Every year we work on it. Every year we lessen it. And the biggest thing we do is that we produce less. I think it's also what really allows me to kind of stay my course in an industry that is very much driven by new, right? And I'm very comfortable in that space of creating fewer and better.
You're listening to the Good Dirt Podcast. This is a place where we dig into the nitty-gritty of sustainable living through food, fashion, and lifestyle.
And we're your hosts, Mary and Emma Kingsley, the mother and daughter founder team of Lady Farmer. We're sowing seeds of slow living through our community platform, events, and online marketplace.
We started this podcast as a means to share the wealth of information and quality conversations that we're having in our world as we dream up and deliver ways for each of us to live into the new paradigm, one that is regenerative, balanced, and whole.
We want to put the microphone in front of the voices that need to be heard the most right now, the farmers, the dreamers, the designers, and the doers.
So come cultivate a better world with us. We're so glad you're here. Now, let's dig in. Hello, good morning.
Good morning on this really, really beautiful sunny morning. I think spring finally is here. It's come and gone a lot, but I hope now it's here to stay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to share and tell for this week? We've started doing these share and tells, and I noticed that when I listen back, sometimes it sounds like share intel, which is not wrong.
Yeah.
But for anyone listening, so there's share intel. You can look at it that way. We were thinking like show and tell. So do you have anything to share and tell this morning?
I do. It's kind of related to something I shared the other day. I think I talked about gathering the dandelion greens and the garlic mustard for my salads, but I did something this week that was really quick and delicious that I wanted to add to that. So I went out and got the dandelions and some nettle. I've got a nice nettle patch in the back of the yard, and some of you might be familiar with this weed, wild herb, but really, really super nutritious food. And you have to be careful when you harvest it because it does sting. So I put on my gloves and long sleeves and went out there and took a bunch and brought it in and threw it in the pan with some dandelion greens and some avocado oil. And I sauteed it up and a little bit of garlic, salt, of course. And then when it got about maybe halfway cooked, I just cracked a couple of eggs straight in it and kept stirring. And within, a couple of minutes, it made this beautiful, nutritious, quick, full meal that we just sat down and enjoyed like I'd been cooking for hours or something. It was really a nice day, and, nobody wanted to come in and get too involved in the kitchen. So it was just a perfect little meal. So I encourage people to try that if you need a really quick supper, and you can, use any green, spinach, and from your garden or not, or, from your CSA or wherever you shop. Just saute up some greens for a couple minutes, throw a couple eggs in there, maybe an egg per person or whatever you want. And we did not happen to have any cheese on hand, but when I do, I'll certainly add that. And that's my share and tell.
Yum.
What about you?
Well, that just ran across this morning, so I'm not going to say the name of the company yet because it's not fully researched. But have you ever heard of paper yarn?
I have not. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, so it was actually an ad that was pushed to me through some various platform for socks made out of paper yarn. From what I can tell, it's out of Japan, and Japan has a long history of using paper in building and clothing, and like it's obviously not like writing paper, it's different types of paper. And there's a method where you can create tiny little strips and then you can turn it into yarn. And so yeah, there's this company that's making socks out of paper yarn, and they do have to be combined with other materials. So whether it's organic cotton or recycled cotton or recycled polyester, because it's hard to make socks and other stretchy things with zero polyester. I am just interested in this as a base. And the paper comes from manila hemp to plant a hemp plant in Japan.
Wow. This sounds really interesting. Let's keep looking into it.
I know. So, really quickly, we do have a fun shout out. We are shouting out Wanda Stewart and Common Vision, which is an organization that advocates for food justice in the San Francisco Bay Area. So this is from a Good Dirt listener. Wanda Stewart inspired me to really start growing my own food in my yard, contributing to community gardens, especially the one at my child's school, and constantly advocating for healthier and more sustainable living regardless of economic bracket. She goes above and beyond to include everyone and anyone she comes across in this education and organizes free, healthy food giveaways across West Oakland to some of the communities that need it most. Wow, Wanda, you sound amazing. Come on the
Yeah.
podcast. Email us.
Yes, please do. We would love to talk to you about this.
I also love how she's in the Bay Area, and our interview guest today is also, well, not Bay Area, but Northern California. So we're all about Northern California today. That's fun. Do you want to introduce our guest, Mom?
This is a really interesting interview. When we say the good dirt is related to everything, we mean it, and that includes even skincare. Our guest today is April Gargiulo. She's founder of Vintners Daughter. It's a skincare company that takes the sourcing of their ingredients all the way down to the soil.
At Vintners Daughter, they approach ingredient sourcing through the lens of terroir, a concept deeply ingrained in April's fine wine making background. So, if you haven't heard of it, terroir is defined as the combination of factors, including soil, climate, and sunlight, that gives wine grapes their distinctive character.
And we were really fascinated by the parallels drawn between growing wine for grapes and plants for skincare. And we're super impressed by the level of intentionality of this company.
Yeah, for example, Vintner's Daughter works to offset carbon emissions through forest protection efforts in partnership with the Conservation Fund. And they partner with an organization called Vitamin Angels to provide pregnant mothers and children with life-changing vitamins. And they have other projects that include digging wells in developing countries, fully funding homes in Haiti in the wake of natural disasters, providing meals to children impacted by the school closings due to COVID-19, and providing books, blankets, and toys to homeless children. So their impact is vast, and she's so committed, as you'll hear in the interview, to the sourcing of the product itself, the impact of the product on the consumer, and then of course the impact of her company on her community.
If you've listened to this podcast, we do end up talking a lot about all the broken systems and all the things that need to be fixed and the great need for change in modern life. So we're really excited when we're introduced to companies that can be held up as models for really true paradigm shift. And we're so happy today to feature this woman-owned business demonstrating such forward-thinking and positive practices in the skincare industry and in the world.
So here is April Gargiulo to tell us all about Vintner's Daughter.
I'm April Gargiulo. I'm the founder and CEO of Vintners Daughter. Vintners Daughter is a nutritional skincare company. We produce two very performance-driven whole plant skincare products, Active Treatment Essence and Active Botanical Serum. And, you know, my background is not in beauty. My background's actually in fine winemaking. My family makes wine in Napa Valley still today. And so it was very much that ethos around quality and craftsmanship that led me to create a skincare company like Vintners Daughter that sits on that same philosophical foundation of creating products that are driven by incredible quality sourcing, meticulous craftsmanship, so that in the case of skincare, so that can have this extraordinary connection with the skin and really drive incredible performance.
I love this because we just talked to a winemaker. We had an episode with a vintner, I guess you would say.
Vintner.
The vintner is the winemaker, right?
I'm not the winemaker, but I am a vintner because I have a company that makes wine. But I, thankfully, for anyone who enjoys Gargiulo Vineyards wines, I am in fact not the winemaker. So the two can be the same sometimes, but they can often be two, you know, distinct individuals.
Oh,
also.
That makes sense. So we just had them on, and the whole time that we've been doing this Lady Farmer project, we wanted to draw the connection between our clothes and the soil because we started as a sustainable apparel brand. And sort of one of the first connections we made in that journey was, oh, you know what else is really connected to the soil is wine.
It's
And
everything. It's
yes.
everything.
And then
Yes.
everything is the soil. We've had some skincare people on the podcast. We're very into natural skincare, but I've never made the connection between wine and skincare. And so I feel like this is closing a loop for me. That is just fits.
Oh,
I
good.
love it.
I'm glad.
Soil, wine,
Wine,
skin.
Well, I don't know that any other skincare company would draw the line
No, yeah.
between wine and skincare, but
But we've
certainly
done
for
it here
me,
today.
certainly for me, it was what allowed me to see things in a different light. I had struggled with my skin all my life. I had like cystic acne and pigmentation, and then everything comes along as you get older, and was using what I thought were the finest products. They were certainly some of the most expensive products.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my first daughter that I started looking at all the ingredients like you do when you're a first time mom. And I was shocked to realize that these so-called luxury products I was using were really, in my mind, anything but. They were 0.01% active ingredient. The rest was filler. That filler was really low quality, oftentimes toxic. And again, coming from where I was coming from, practically every grain of dirt is considered in the winemaking process, right? You're considering quality at every step in the process. There's no such thing as shortcuts. There's no such thing as cutting corners. You're creating something that you hope someone's going to enjoy in 20, 30, 40, 50 and on years, right? So the level, like the standards at which you have to maintain the quality is so extreme. And that was my definition of luxury, right? So that was how I grew up. I didn't talk about luxury as a kid, obviously. It wasn't anything we ever talked about, but that really informed my vision of luxury. And when I realized that these products I was using that, again, had these insane price tags, were not anything close to what I thought of as luxury, that was the genesis of Vintners Daughter. How do I create a skincare company that sits and shares those same philosophical foundations, fine winemaking?
Yeah.
Wow. So would you call that your aha moment?
Absolutely. I mean, interestingly, I was always very conscious of everything I brought into my house, from food to cleaning products to clothes to everything. But because I was always dealing with some sort of skin thing, I kind of had my head in the sand about my skincare, to be honest. And so I wasn't looking at these ingredients thinking that they were going to be kind of clean and green. Like, I knew that wasn't going to be the case, but I had no idea how cheap and low quality they were. You know what I mean? Like, now I recognize that the two really go hand in hand. But at the time I just thought, oh, wow, I just paid $200 for this bottle and it cost about 10 cents for them to make.
Oh my God.
So that's from, you can look at it from kind of a social perspective and how it's made and where it's made and the people and communities that are affected by that production of those raw materials, or even the actual kind of assembling of the product, right? Or you can look at it from the packaging. Like, a lot of these packages are made out of, well, not a lot of them, almost all of them are made out of plastic, non-recycled plastic. And anyway, it goes on, right? So in this small bottle of whatever it was, $300 cream, the impact it was having, the negative impact it was having both on my skin and the environment and social communities, was just too much for me to overlook anymore.
That's really cool that you said that you had pretty much always had this consciousness around all of these other things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that came from? Just like sort of general, like going back even before the skincare stuff. Like, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my family. That's Napa. That's my dad. Growing up,
California.
I'm the daughter of a farmer.
Okay.
Ultimately. And so, I mean, I grew up in a household where, like, I begged for Chef Boyardee, like pasta in a can.
Yes.
And my dad was like, no, absolutely not, as he was sort of cranking the hand pasta maker, right? I mean, he grew everything that we ate, made everything that we ate. So that was just the world that I grew up in. And certainly that was in my household, but also Napa upholds that. The Napa community upholds that. In so many different ways. So it was just what I was surrounded with. I was really lucky and fortunate and grateful to be surrounded by that ecosystem of really respect for the earth.
Yeah. And so you say that you had your head in the sand about the skincare stuff. Why do you think there was a disconnect?
Because at the time, like, the only place you could go shop for kind of like clean or green products was like the health food store.
Yeah.
Really. Right. And then also at the time, there was this idea that you had to, I mean, actually, I think it's pretty prevalent still today. There was this idea that you had to have like 15 or 16 or 17 different steps that, right, that like chemical, like doctor things were better.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the synthetic was better. Like that was how you got performance, right? And I always think about it. It's so silly now that I think about it. It's like we've all had these moments around different things, right? And for me, it was this moment of like, oh, wait a second, April, like what you were putting on your face is the equivalent of a meal replacement bar, right?
Yeah.
A meal replacement bar, right? That's been cooked up in a lab with all sorts of synthetic ingredients. It can sit on a shelf in a plastic wrapper for 25 years. When you could be putting on your face some beautifully prepared plate of food, right? That's been grown locally with the freshest, most organic ingredients. Like which one is going to service your body at a deeper level and bring about health and balance? That's what I wanted for my skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was also, I think, and probably still is, this perception that you have to have all these different products.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, with those steps. Don't worry, each one's in its own bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. You have to have 15 different steps. And I was also a new mom. And so for me, it was, okay, I don't want to compromise any performance. That's not what I'm here for. I want all the performance. I want all the bells and whistles, and I want it in fewer steps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you've narrowed it down to 2.
I've narrowed it down to 2, but we don't have a cleanser. You still need a cleanser. I don't make an SPF. You need an SPF. So I make an essence and a serum. And so the essence is your hydration step. The serum is your moisture step. I think that is kind of the first place that people kind of their mind explodes, because so oftentimes hydration and moisture are spoken about as if they are the same thing. They are different, and your skin needs both. Hydration is water. Moisture is oil. Moisture is what maintains the water, maintains the hydration in your skin. And so a traditional cream, is very simply an emulsion of water and oil. And what that does is that when they're mixed together already, it doesn't allow the water, the hydration portion, to be able to sink into your skin deeply, because our bodies are 65% plus water. A hydration product is able to sink into your skin deeper than a moisture product. And so I split them apart. And we have a distinct hydration step, which is able to go deep into your skin. That's our active treatment essence, followed by a distinct moisture step, which is able to maintain this like very radiant, glowy, plumping, firming, occlusive layer on top of the skin to protect the hydration.
That is bananas, because Mom, you were just telling
I
me
know.
that.
Really?
I was just
Yes, I'll let her say it, but I'll just tell my perception. She was like, I'm having this weird thing where like I feel like I have to put on water before I do my oil, or it's like not working.
Yeah. So I love the beautiful oil products from these wonderful plants, and I love putting them on my face. But I constantly have the sensation, like hours later, like say I put it on before I go to bed at night, and then I wake up in the morning and my face feels kind of like paper, sort of like it didn't go in.
Right.
And it's frustrating.
Okay, so there's a couple different things going on there.
Yeah.
One, there are different kinds of oil. So our oil is called active botanical serum. We call it a serum because it penetrates the skin more deeply. It was designed to penetrate the skin more deeply. I think what you've been talking about are something called like a finishing oil, which is meant to go at the very end of your program, your routine, to sort of to hold everything in, right? And so in that case, you definitely want to have something ahead of it, right? Because it's only going to it's first of all, a lot of it's going to rub off because it's not going to sink into your skin, and you need something ahead of it, whether that is a simple mist or something that's a more performance driven product, like our essence, our active treatment essence. A routine is not a routine unless they have a moisture at the end, like a traditional cream moisture, right? And so those people will apply essence, our active treatment essence, then they'll apply active botanical serum, and then they apply their cream. And so I always suggest that active botanical serum really be used more as a serum. And for me, it's all I need from a moisture standpoint. But if you are really dry, or to your point, it's winter or what have you, then you could even finish with one of those kind of finishing oils at the very end. So moisture is oil. Hydration is water.
Hydration. So tell her that what you were telling me, which is that you feel like it literally works better when you put water.
Of course it does. Yes.
I have been playing around with the DIY, skincare, because it's fun, and sometimes I'll hit on something that really works. And so recently I was playing around, and I was looking up different recipes and stuff, and ran across one that had you're gonna think like, oh, well, of course, but this one had water in it, and I thought, well, water, that's odd, because water will have bacteria in it and it can go rancid. But anyway, I followed the recipe, and it was 70% water and it had all these other oils and stuff in it. And I realized it made my face feel better. It actually did. And so it's exactly what you're saying. There was in the recipe, it went into this thing about, you need an emulsifier so the water and oil will mix. And then you also have to worry about it, getting bacteria in it. And you can need to keep it in your refrigerator and it'll last about a week and all that. So it gets pretty complicated and it makes you realize that all those creams and stuff out there, the lotions that we love so much and have come to crave, all those lotions that come in all those plastic jars and bottles and all that kind of stuff. How much money have I in my lifetime spent on product after product to find the perfect one that makes my face feel like a queen and all that. Just have all this stuff in them so that
So they don't go bad.
so it'll be all emulsified. It won't go bad and it'll have that creamy texture. So this is what I'm starting to learn is sometimes you have to pick and choose some of that stuff.
Well, it's kind of a minefield out there, right? And there's so much that comes at you. I mean, more and more every day.
Yes.
And that is a big part of why I got into the skincare world is I've had that moment where I saw behind the curtain and I realized how inexpensively and cheaply made the products were and that they were spending more money on packaging and marketing than they were on what was inside. And that they were using words and marketing language to make me feel insecure and fearful in my skin, right? And none of that added up to like true beauty to me. And so I really wanted to create, skincare that had this extraordinarily positive impact on your skin, on your life, on our world, and do it in a way that could really, make you feel confident and radiant and beautiful and grateful in your skin versus have this like constant struggle.
I think that's such a big piece of it, the messaging. And we've talked about this before on here, and you say you don't even have a cleanser, but there's, this, now it's coming out that we've kind of over sanitized ourselves, particularly our bodies. And this whole thing, like, you got to clean your skin, for how many years? I'm like in my 60s and like for 50 something of those years, there's been this emphasis on getting your face clean. Well, maybe your face is naturally, not that dirty. Maybe you just need a little water. Maybe you just need, to just not soap, but maybe you don't need a whole product to clean. Regimen. Maybe your skin's like really okay, the way it is with you have a biodome on your face, I guess, and on all your skin. Would you say that's true?
Well, I mean, here's the thing is I think people do a lot to their skin to interrupt it.
Yeah.
Right. To interrupt, to not amplify the skin's own powers of, regeneration and brightening and all the things you wanted to do, but to really kind of interrupt that and antagonize it, right? With cleansing, with acids, with just having 17 different steps.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot that people do in the name of skincare that is not super beneficial to skin.
Yeah. And especially if you're prone to using a lot of cosmetics and stuff and you're putting all that stuff in your skin. And then, maybe you do need to clean your skin in a special way. But it gets pretty complicated and it's so much to do with, commerce and marketing telling us these things we need because we are somehow not enough. Our beauty's not enough. Our bodies don't do a good enough job. We need these products to help them along.
Yeah, they need to fix something.
Yeah, we need to fix something.
We need to stop aging.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. The stop aging is we're very pro-aging at Vintners Daughter. We don't say anti-aging. We don't use it because I think that what is anti-aging? Yeah. We're all aging. Every single one of us are aging. If we're not aging, we're dead.
Yeah,
right? So
that's true.
I'm very much in favor of aging.
Aging's great.
We are, right?
Aging means you're doing something right.
Yeah. The alternative is not that interesting. So, we always say that we're very pro-aging.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So all of these gazillions of brands out there all over the place, they always say they're offering the best skincare. Like this is the best. And there'll be testimonial after testimonial, person, they tried this and it absolutely is the best. And so how can our listeners sift through all this, all these claims, highest ingredient, care for the environment,
so many labels,
glowing results, glowing testimonials,
vegan.
Yeah, all these things like
gluten-free.
Can you help us sift through some of this stuff and like where you guys stand on it? And I don't know, just talk about all that. And every company is going to have their own like battery of claims, so to speak.
Yeah. I can only talk about Vintners Daughter and I can talk about it. Vintners Daughter, we have very extreme standards, like for it to wear a Vintner's Daughter label, a product has to live up to just very extreme standards of quality and performance and impact, right? This positive impact we want to have on your skin and your life in the world. And so we go about that in a very, just really meticulous way. We've introduced 2 products in 10 years. We have 2 of the most kind of coveted and beloved and award-winning products. It's not as if we could not be introducing new product every 4 to 5 weeks. For us, yes, we are all the things that you said, right? We are gluten-free, we are vegan, we're all the things, right? And for me, that is all table stakes. Like the way that, having a positive impact on our customer skin and the world, like that is table stakes. And the rest of it for us is just having, again, just this extraordinarily positive impact. And we hope we can do that through how we source, where we source, the consciousness through which we source our raw materials, through which we make our product, the impact we have on our customer skin, the language that we use. Everything we do is very intentional. And so we want to make your next product just the opposite. Like we don't want to make your next product. We want to make your last product.
Yeah.
We want this to be the last face oil you ever buy, the last essence you ever buy, because you have just fallen in love and you just married it for life.
That would be nice.
So talk to us about your ingredients.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about your sourcing?
The way that we make product is really unlike anyone else. And so we have this proprietary process. It's called our Phytoradiance Infusion. It's what sits at the heart of both of our products. Probably every product you've ever used is made in, a couple hours or less. Every Vintner's Daughter product is made it takes about 3 weeks to make every single bottle. And that's because, again, we're not using extracts, we're not using powders, we're not using synthetics. We begin with whole plants. So some of the most nutrient dense whole plants in the world. These were plants that were called the foods of life in ancient times. They're plants like alfalfa and dandelion and nettle because they have such an extraordinary nutritional impact on the body, right? And they have all these incredible nutrients in the most perfect ratios. So we begin with these whole plants over the course of 3 weeks in this very temperature controlled, very gentle way. We capture all that nutrition, all those actives, and it's how we're able to create this conduit, this connection to the skin. It's how that analogy I gave before of a meal replacement bar versus a beautiful prepared plate of food, like that's what we're giving the skin. All of those nutrients from a beautifully prepared plate of food, right? With the freshest, most local organic ingredients. That's what's connecting to the skin and giving the skin everything it needs to be its very best, right? All the nutrients it needs to supercharge its own processes. The skin is extraordinary. As many people talk about, it's our largest organ. It is extraordinary, right? It is there to protect us. And to be able to give it everything it needs so that it can operate at its kind of highest level is what we seek to do.
It's like feeding your skin a really good salad. Yeah.
So where do these plants come from? Are you growing them in the Napa Valley?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So, I come from this wine world, right? And in winemaking, you may have spoken about this when you talk to the winemaker. We believe in something called terroir.
Yeah.
So there's this idea, right, that where something is grown is as important as what it is. And so I believe in that. I believe that there are certain places in the world that grow particular plants better, right? And so to that end, we go around the world to find where that particular plant has grown best. You have the ideal conditions, you have kind of generations of learned knowledge to create raw materials that are simply, for us, more nutritionally robust. And that's what we're looking for. And so from a raw material standpoint, when we can find the very best locally, of course, that's what we do. But there are plants that we source around the world, like bergamot from the heel of Italy, cypress from Spain. We're finding the very best, highest quality, most nutritionally dense ingredients from conscious farmers.
Wow.
And that can be close to home or around the world.
That must be some fun R&D for you. Do you get to travel around?
So COVID now, and before that, I had 2 little kids.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that would be, I always think that that's going to happen. Like as soon as I get through this phase, I'm going to get to do it. And then it's COVID. And as soon as this, I don't know. I'm lucky that I have people that I've known for years that I trust who have relationships.
And again, I bet that's a lot of that you're able to carry over from the winemaking and that world of just farmers and growers all over the world.
Well, I think it's one of those things that I have like a deep comfort in.
Yeah.
Agriculture is uncomfortable, right? Like agriculture is,
Problematic.
up and down and all around,
Yeah.
right? And so I have like a deep comfort level in the uncomfortable, right? I think. And I think it's also what really allows me to kind of stay my course in an industry that is very much driven by new, right? And I'm very comfortable in that space of creating fewer and better, right? Not just creating more for new sake. I'm very comfortable in the kind of fewer and better space. I think, listen, we do everything there is to reduce our carbon output every year. Every year we work on it. Every year we lessen it. And the biggest thing we do is that we produce less. That I don't introduce a new product every 4 months.
Yeah, so that is so countercultural. Just that idea of, did you just say it, less and better?
Counter-capitalist.
Yes.
Yeah, I said fewer better.
Fewer better. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like in business school they would say, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's very revolutionary.
Yeah.
I mean, meanwhile, it's very old world.
Right.
I mean, meanwhile, like I did not make this up. This is something that's very old world, very like this is how like people used to care for themselves and their communities and our planet.
Yeah. So, and if you don't have like specific stories, that's okay too. But can you speak at all to like how hard that is?
Oh, it's really hard
to do that. And you've been doing this for over
really
a decade now?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I just have to put blinders on because everyone introduces products every 2 minutes, and it's really what gets you in magazines. It's what gets you placements. It's what kind of makes the wheel of capitalism turn, right? And so we're constantly kind of like riding this fine line. And I've had retailers tell me straight to my face, oh, you only have 1 product or 2 products. We can't put you on our shelves. We don't even know what to do with that. So
my gosh,
less today, but more like when I was first starting out, because no one had ever done, literally still today, no one has ever had a single product like we had for 5 years. It just doesn't exist in the luxury beauty world. And so no one knew how to talk about us. Again, we came out at a time when it was like this 15, 16 step skincare routine. They didn't know how to merchandise us. They didn't know. I mean, it was kind of wild at the beginning. And I would have people say, well, we love this product, but call us back when you have 5 more. And I kind of look at them and I'd say, like, that's not the deal. Like, that's not what's happening here. And so it was, I think it took us a while for people to take us seriously. I'm constantly having to kind of
recalibrate,
reframe, recalibrate, but really more than anything, just like keep shining a light on that North Star, that mission of fewer, better. And the only reason we can do fewer better is because we are in fact making far better. I mean, this goes to that, the question that you had, how do you know your products are better?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I know they're better because of how we source. I know they're better because of the meticulousness by which we formulate, right? Like we don't take shortcuts. We don't cut corners. And so for me, that is how I know. I mean, it's how I can make a product and feel confident and proud of it to wear a Vintners Daughter label. And we are doing it completely differently. And who knows? I don't know. You may not want to talk to me again in a year. Who knows?
Well, I'm interested that you use the term old world because that brings to mind pre-industrial. Now, of course, you have to use some industrialization to come out with your product and distribute it around.
Well, we don't
obviously
fill each bottle by hand anymore.
Right.
Which is nice.
But you used to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing.
But the idea being that in a pre-industrial economy, someone would have been made a product for the community, and that would have been their lifetime thing, their contribution to the community. Like horseshoes or candles.
Baskets.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is it is an old world approach mixed with some post-industrial aspects, but the concept in itself and the idea that no, you don't have to keep adding stuff to survive, or you're going to at least proceed differently under a different model. So that's very interesting. I call that slow living.
Yeah.
It's slow beauty, right? I mean, we say that we move at the speed of quality.
Oh, I love
it.
That's
and
good.
So we get questioned all the time about when's your next product? When's your next product? I mean, we've only ever had 2 products. And I remember we introduced our second product. And in the same conversation that I'm talking about the second product, I have somebody who asked me, when's your next product? And I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is so ingrained in everyone. Like it's like new. Like it's not relevant unless it's new. And what that implies is that whatever you have is bad or no longer useful, right? And so I'm really trying to kind of like flip this paradigm because again, like I want to create your last product, not your next. And I really want you to have the freedom from that constant searching or that constant fear or insecurity around skincare. I want you to have that freedom to say, oh, I've got what works for me. Like, this is what works for me. Thanks. I'm going to turn all y'all off. And
Mhm.
here, I've got this, because our skin's not changing, right? What feeds our skin isn't changing. What's going to make our skin healthy and balanced and radiant isn't changing.
Mm.
We love paradigm flipping.
Yeah. It also reminds me of when we started Lady Farmer in the very beginning, we had some we had no idea what we were doing. And so we were lucky to have some guidance along the way, people kind of popping in and giving us advice here and there and helping us with certain aspects of it. And I feel like, I don't know if you remember this, Mom, but there was a general, more experienced business people than us who were excited about what we were doing and about our product, which at first was the clothing. There was this urgency of this needs to get to market before someone else has this idea. It was the faster you can get this to market, the better. And that made me so uncomfortable because I was like, wait, I don't know. And we didn't end up doing that, but I just thought that was an interesting mindset. And I think that is probably how most of the world operates. People who produce things, let's get it out there. So not only is it what's the next thing, the newest thing, but how fast can we do it?
Oh, right. So that you can have something new right behind it.
Yeah. There was also the pressure of the new line, when the new line, the new season, and here we were, we're slow fashion. We can't do it every season, and we didn't. We sort of ended up going in other directions, and we did that one line, and So,
well, I mean, here's the thing. It's super interesting, right? It's about what's driving you. What's your mission?
Right.
Are you revenue driven?
Mm-hmm.
In which case you would create a new line every 3 months or whatever it is in fashion. I don't know. It's every 2 weeks, maybe. In fashion.
Every week.
Literally every
seasons.
week. 52 seasons.
Yeah, literally, right? 52 seasons. And each season we become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, right? More cheaply made, right? Because every season you'd have to figure out how to squeeze out a little bit more revenue, a little more profit margin, right? And that is a very traditional paradigm. I mean, that is what exists in the world today. And, it's what I always say with Vintners Daughter, we're not revenue driven. We are skin driven. And that's not to say that we don't need revenue and we don't need to be profitable. We do, but it's not what gets us out of bed. What gets us out of bed is servicing the skin of our customers.
Yeah. I wanted to circle back. You were talking about some of your ingredients, and I heard dandelion and nettle. And I just want to comment on that those are the two most
weeds
common plants on the
we
planet.
Should spray with Roundup.
Yes, and there's this entire, talking about industry, there's huge industry around destroying those things. And they're also in, I don't know about nettle, but I would be willing to bet that dandelion is in every single person's backyard, or if not, it's certainly in a neighbor of your, So it's just, it's remarkable to me how, wow, just these plants that are just everywhere. I mean, and they're here to help us.
But their tenacity is what makes them so powerful. Yes. In the same way that they're so tenacious, it is exactly what makes them incredible for feeding our bodies.
They can grow anywhere.
Right. And they're incredibly nutrient dense.
Yes.
They are self-reliant in terms of being able to, without water, without sunshine, without all the things, they can still thrive. And it's why they've been a staple since ancient times in some of the most healthy civilizations.
And not only do they survive anywhere, but if you know anything, if you delve into herbs or foraging or any of that kind of thing at all, those are the first two things you would hear about practically, or dandelion and nettle,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, listen, it's traditional medicine.
Yes, hugely accessible, hugely nutrition dense.
Yes, and ancient.
Yeah, so I love this. This is amazing. I'm just curious, what are some other of your ingredients?
So they're along the same lines. So we also use helichrysum. We use a type of a green tea leaf. We use ginkgo. We use some frankincense. Yes, some really beautiful roots, astragalus, turmeric. I mean, the things that we're using are things that, have been researched and used literally since ancient times across cultures, whether it was Greek cultures or ancient Chinese medicine. They are ingredients that have been part of nutritional and medicinal studies for millennia.
I love this. And it fits so much into I think, an awakening amongst, some people, more and more people, that some plants, lots and lots of plants, just offer us so many gifts. And we don't need a laboratory to concoct things from synthetic materials to take care of ourselves. In some instances, maybe, there's some advanced drugs that will treat some things, and I'm not
Of
knocking
course. Yeah.
medicine, and
No,
all of
no,
that stuff is
absolutely
really
not.
good. But there's things out there in the natural world that are so powerful for us. And this was once embraced by all of humanity, and I feel like
It did pretty well for a long time.
it did. And
We got here.
the understanding of that is beginning to creep back in, and I just love it that your product embraces those things. So,
Well, I am part of a very long heritage. So I am standing on the shoulders of very great women and men who have kept these traditions, held these traditions, and taught those traditions.
Yeah.
I remember, we've been very lucky. We've had everybody from Gwyneth Paltrow to Hailey Bieber to Tracy Ellis Ross to Lady Gaga kind of name check Vintner's Daughter and mention Vintner's Daughter, right? We've been very
Wow.
lucky. One of the most incredible emails I ever received was from a woman who I consider one of my mentors. Her name's Rosemary Gladstar.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I got an email from Rosemary telling me how much that somehow she had came across Vintner's Daughter and that she really,
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that to me was like, I was like, okay. And we've made it, people. No one know, like I couldn't even believe it. So that was like that was a huge day for me.
Yeah, for those of us listening, Rosemary Gladstar is a very well-known, prominent herbalist of today, and has been teaching for many years, and is still teaching and written many books. And
That's amazing.
I personally have several of her books on my shelf.
Oh, she's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And we've become friends now. And so
Oh,
she's somebody who
that's
I'm just like so
wonderful.
lucky to know, and that this community has really, it was something I didn't realize before I'd gotten into it, is that like wellness, skincare, beauty, whatever you want to call what we're all here doing, it's really supportive. Like it's just an
Yeah.
incredibly like supportive, nurturing community. I mean, there's always outliers, yes, of course, but for the most part, it has been so supportive, and it's just filled with so many incredibly passionate, smart, creative people.
That's the feminine principle. It's not competitive, it's supportive. There's room for everybody.
Yes. Collaboration, not competition.
Yes. And there's so much abundance.
Yeah.
There's a place for everybody to express their creativity and their ingenuity and all this kind of stuff. And we don't need to be afraid that someone else is going to take our spot.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I met Rosemary Gladstar. You're in California, so you probably don't know this organization, but it's called the Wise Women's Conference. And then there was a big Southeast section of it. And every year they had this big conference outside of Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all had your own Wise Women's chapter.
Well, there's a new thing called Spirit Weavers that I feel like must have come out of it.
I bet it did,
Okay.
because they wound down even a year or two before COVID. They stopped having the conference, and I really miss it. It was so fun.
You should check out Spirit Weavers.
Spirit Weavers, I
It's
will.
in Southern Oregon. They didn't do it for a couple of years because of COVID, but they do it, I think, like twice a year. But it's a similar thing.
Cool.
Really about wisdom and sharing wisdom. And
Yeah, so I met her. I took a course there, and it was really nice, kind of a smallish crowd under a tent, and yeah, just felt really neat. And I also have some friends that have done her herbalist course and all that stuff.
I want to get back to, just real quick, right at the end here, back to paradigm shifting and the feminine principle and all of this that we're talking about. I'm interested, April, in your sort of the way you see, like, how do you think it's all going? And like, do you think all of us that are fighting this fight together, you think we have any chance?
okay, so you're like in my head, because
Yeah.
I think about this all the time. I think, how do I not let fear take the driver's seat? Right? Because it's really easy to let that happen. And I think what works for me is it's like, I just have to constantly remind myself of that North Star, right?
Yes. And that's kind of when you were saying that earlier in this conversation, that's what like really clicked in my head, because it's kind of like, maybe that's the answer, is like, maybe we just reevaluate what's driving us. And like, yes, revenue is important to like keep going, but what if that's not the first thing? And for people like us, that's not obviously the first thing. But what if some of these the people with more power and more money, do you think it's possible that we could bump revenue and profits down in priority in the world? Or are we just like so far beyond? I don't know. And like, what would take convincing? Because
Yeah.
obviously there's a shift happening.
Okay, so there's this really interesting book that, well, I found it to be interesting. It's called Buddhist Economics.
Oh, wow.
Do I have it right here? No, I don't have. I thought I had it right next to me. It's a professor. She's a Berkeley professor, University of California, Berkeley professor, and I think it's fascinating. And I've studied Buddhism for many years, and I've studied it from kind of a personal level, and never thought about how it applied to my business. But the reality is that that actually has been how I've been approaching the business in a Buddhist way. And Buddhist economics talks about this idea of can there be an alternative? And I think this is what you're saying. Can there be an alternative to a free market economy? A free market economy suggests that, and this goes back to Mary, what you were talking about, suggests that there's a finite amount of resources. And so if you get something, it means I get one less.
Yeah.
Right. And the Buddhist economics is suggesting that there's an alternative. Right. And that it's the opposite. And so anyway, it's an interesting read. It's on the academic side, but I think interesting read that answers that question in a much more articulate and erudite way than I am currently.
And so would you say that sort of that guides you, and then the mission of your company guides you, and I would even say, for you specifically, even your terroir and your connection with the land, that's kind of your...
I believe that a connection to nature is a connection to ourselves and vice versa. And so if I can create products that help facilitate that connection to nature, then I feel like I have achieved everything, right? And so if I can create that connection through those products for people, and when they're applying Vintners Daughter, they are having that moment of connection to nature, which again, I believe is a connection to ourselves, that is extraordinary.
Yes. That's awesome. So we are a brand that's all about slow living, and we talk about sowing the seeds of slow living, and that's kind of our guiding principle. And slow living can mean a lot of different things, depending on who you're talking to and your life experience. So what does slow living mean to you?
Slow living for me is about intentionality. I mean, for me, it's about the intentionality behind your day and your time and the products you use and the food you eat and the people you surround yourself and so on. And so ultimately for me, it's about intentionality. And I guess that intentionality is really about a prioritization and laddering your words and actions to that prioritization.
Did you read The Lady Farmer Guide to Slow Living? Because you just said the whole first paragraph.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did. That's
We're
exactly
on the same page. I didn't know that. No, I don't.
Literally on the same page.
Really? Oh my gosh. No, I didn't. But I'm, great minds.
And you're going to get one. We send.
Yeah, so you'll get to see.
Oh, good.
That's so funny. You just summed up the first paragraph. So that's
that's
great.
amazing.
Yeah. So, April, what does the good dirt mean to you? And you can answer that literally or metaphorically. I have an idea what it means to you as a vintner's daughter, but can you speak to that question?
The first thing that came up for me is terroir. I mean, we spoke about that, right? And this idea that where something grows is really important. And the geography, the history, the learned knowledge of the community and the people is all really critical. So that was the first thing that came up for me when you mentioned good dirt.
Terroir. That's just the best word too.
Yeah.
This is a fun little bonus one. What's your favorite wine?
If it's a well-made wine, and that's a big caveat, whatever is in my glass is my favorite wine.
Okay. And what does well-made mean for you?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's a lot, right? I mean, again, I'm going to go back. It's about intentionality. I mean, I want a wine that is expressive of a particular place at a particular time, that specific grape. I mean, my family's winery, Gargiulo Vineyards, it's in Oakville, Napa Valley, and we have this red rocky soil that, we are currently stewards of. And for us, it means that we want to make wines that are almost like time capsules to that particular place, that grape, that particular place, that particular time. And so that's really important to me in a great wine expression.
I want some red wine right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's time. 6 o'clock here.
Yeah.
I was going to say time for you guys. I think I still got a couple more hours.
So is there anything else that you want listeners to understand about what you're doing at Vintners Daughter, or
just anything that you want to talk about before we close?
I want your listeners to know that whatever they're doing is wonderful and beautiful and amazing.
Good.
I mean, that's ultimately it. I think there's so much of what we're told every day is that whatever, again, this hegemony of new, the meaning that whatever is old, whatever you've been using, not good. You need to get on with the new.
Yeah.
So that is it. We're all perfect right now, right this minute.
Oh, that's so helpful. Especially even on this podcast too, I feel like a lot of our work, is kind of educating people about how bad stuff is, that
Right.
gets like old too. It's like we're in the business of like educating people to make healthy choices for the planet and for themselves, not making people feel bad.
Right.
So
Right.
I appreciate you saying that.
And we are where we are.
And that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Exactly.
April.
Oh, thank you, ladies, so much. This is really fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Good Dirt podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we hope you'll share it with a friend to spread the good dirt.
This show is produced by Lady Farmer, a slow living lifestyle community, and the original music is composed and performed by John Kingsley.
For more from Lady Farmer, follow us on Instagram at WeAreLadyFarmer. That's We Are Lady Farmer. Or join us online at www.ladyfarmer.com. We'll see you next time on The Good Dirt.
Goodbye.